Hey, you're listening to the Fatboy Show on your number one station, RX Radio. How are you doing today? We narrowly survived drowning in the month of love, as it was called, February. First, it was just Valentine's Day on the 14th of February, in which we were supposed to supplicate to the ladies and to treat them like queens. And then someone woke up and said, you know what? Let's make all of February the women's month, the month of love. And so the whole month we just had to be, little darlings doing all the amazing things for the ladies. But now we are in March and we thought we escaped. And then they hit us with Women's Day. Once again, us bowing at the feet of women. My goodness, it's like it never ends. What's going to happen? Just wait. Heroes Day is coming up in early June. What, you don't think the ladies are going to make it all about them? Well, you got another thing coming. We can only hope that they won't try to appropriate Easter, but fingers crossed. Joining me, Dennis Asiimwe joins me on the Fatboy Show today. How are you doing today, Mr. Dennis?
Hi, James.
Yeah, it's been a while since you've joined us on the program. You're a friend of the program. You've been on the show many, many times from the beginning. Good to have you back.
Great to be here.
All right, so I can see you survived the Women's Day. You look like you came out in one piece. Good for you.
It was traumatizing.
Right, and my goodness, the sense of entitlement. What do you make of it? Go to social media and you can think that the entire world is nothing but a singular religion dedicated to worship at the altar of the feminine. What's going on?
I think what social media has taught us to do as a global society is to pick up a trend, pick up on something and just simply celebrate it. You're going to notice this much more frequently and much more emphatically. Mm-hmm. And so that's what it's sort of become trendy to praise and talk about the wonderfulness of womanhood. And so that's simply what happened this particular time around.
I would have to ask though, like even I, who thinks of himself as a bit of a narcissist, even I have my limits. At some point, I'm like, okay, I've heard enough praise for myself. All right, you can relax. For women, it seems like their need for adulation and validation is relentless, unending.
I mean, women will calmly and with straight faces refer to each other as queen. She'll be referring to some farmer somewhere that looks like a brick wall.
I've never understood that thing. Calling people queen, calling people king, as if they forget that there's a hierarchy with these sorts of royal institutions. If there is a king or a queen, it means the rest of y'all are slaves.
Not even just the hierarchy. The very definition of these particular positions is that they are, they're not commonplace. They're not as frequent as women make them out to be. But as far as women are concerned, every woman is a queen, which is technically impossible.
Well, so they like to believe. But aren't they getting help from a certain category of men who sometimes are referred to as simps, who like to indeed prostrate themselves at the feet of women and to tell them everything they want to hear, and in so doing depriving women of the much needed opportunity to come face to face with reality and what it entails?
I agree completely. And the problem with simping today is that it also takes a material form in terms of giving women whatever they want materially. And it doesn't make much logical sense because in terms of the competition variation within populations, another person is always going to have a little bit more than you. And you'll find that simps tend to almost encourage and compete with each other. And
to out-simp themselves.
Exactly.
But here's the thing. So for me, as a rational man, I'm okay with the idea of mutual benefit, of you want something from me, but at the same time, I need something from you. You can have expectations from me. I ought to have expectations from you. The simps in question seem to be putting into the minds of women that they need not bring anything to the table, that by their mere existence, the simple fact that they're flesh and blood and that they have breath means that they deserve everything a man needs to offer, and that a man should ask for nothing in return. In fact, he should thank her for the privilege of her gracing his life in any small way.
Which is where the whole queen term comes from.
Right, you're a queen. She doesn't have to earn her way into a man's life or into a man's heart. It is a privilege that she expects to be extended just by virtue of her being.
And it's
crazy.
It is human that women don't question this particular term or this particular approach towards them. I mean, of course, anybody who's offered that particular position is going to want to hold on to it. It's comfortable. It doesn't make any demands on you. Just by existing, you're a queen.
Okay. So now, Dennis, I want to play for us a clip of a guy who I saw this video on Facebook, and so I pulled it out and I'm like, let me bring this on the show and see what people have to say about this. So let's see what he has to say. And in case you're just listening to this on the program, what you will hear or what the video depicts is a man on one side and a woman on the other side. The woman sort of is just listening and acknowledging the points he's saying and is seemingly showing agreement, whereas the man is spouting the simp propaganda. So here we go. Take a listen to this.
I'm not a woman, but if I was a woman, I'm not opening my door. I'm not paying at a restaurant. I'm not choosing where to go eat. I'm not making the plans for the evening. If I was a woman, I would demand that I be treated like a queen, to be honored, respected, cherished, and valued. I would demand it because my standards would be so high for my life that the only man that could possibly ever think of being with me is a man that is fully in his masculine. And that's when you stop attracting little boys and you start attracting real men, is when you decide that you're worth it.
Yes, queen. You go, queen.
The biggest irony of that particular speech is that it's actually a little demeaning towards women. It's removing agency from them completely.
How does it do that?
How do you not decide what you're going to have for dinner? Or how do you not get involved in the decision-making process completely? Like, absolve yourself completely. How do you do that and remain an adult?
In other words, this is behavior we expect from a child. You are my parent, therefore, you need to worry about where I live, what I eat, how I am entertained. My job is to just exist as a child in your life. And I would know that because I do have a child, and that's kind of how we treat the child. You spend every moment, waking moment, trying to anticipate the child's needs and respond to its any discomfort. And that is how you handle babies. Now, on one hand, he's saying you're a queen. On the other hand, he's saying
you're a baby.
You're a baby. So how is it that this video is resonating powerfully with a lot of ladies on social media? You know, a lot of ladies are saying this is what men need to hear.
It's because it's frighteningly irrational.
So do you think this guy knows that he's making no sense, but he's just doing this to ingratiate towards women, himself towards women, and maybe get likes and retweets or whatever?
For a minute there, I actually thought he was being sarcastic. It reminded me of a Babyface song, As Soon As I Get Back Home.
That one.
I mean, for a long time, we thought he was being sarcastic when he was singing that song.
Wait, he wasn't being serious?
I actually think he was being sarcastic because he got divorced soon afterwards.
And a second time. The most romantic men seem to have no luck with women. But, on my part, I do feel, and in my dating life, I try to ensure that there is a woman has to earn her space in my life. It is not a courtesy I merely extend. I mean, I am happy to extend to her what value I can bring to her life, but that is only in exchange for what I expect her to add to my life. See? So I don't just roll out the red carpet. If I'm coming into your life to improve on it, you're coming into my life to do the same. And in tangible ways, by the way. Don't just say, oh, I will love you. I will ask you how, in what ways, what specific actions are you going to take in the service of this thing called love, right?
It almost reminds me of a Miley Cyrus song.
No, because we have to do. Why is it that when it comes to the things that men are supposed to do for women, it is easily quantified? They're quite clear about what they want. They want dinners, they want vacations, they want money, they want a handyman, they want all these things, right? A sexual stallion. Why is it that we are not allowed to elucidate any of our specific requirements of a woman in our lives?
It's probably one of the best things that has come out of the emergence of the LGBT community and their alphabet version is that they have downplayed the demands that women were making on society in terms of how irrational they were. And in terms of the expectations, I mean, women always want like a tall guy is going to have abs, is going to have a fantastic job, is
and
going
that's
to be able to
fine.
dress well.
It's what they want.
Yes, but the second that men made that sort of level of demand, you have to be attractive, you have to be really good in bed, really good in the kitchen, be able to dress well, be able to look after children, be able to have a job and keep it, be able to drive a manual car. They went on strike the second that men came up with their own list of demands. And it's almost like women prefer to be the only gender that is irrational.
But explain to me, and maybe it goes to your point about rationality or the lack thereof. I would be hard-pressed to find a man who would assume that he is entitled to the affections of a woman by providing nothing of value to her life. I think even the worst lowlife understands that to win a woman's love or affections or to sleep with her, you have to provide something tangible. You have to improve her life, provide her with the security, physical or otherwise, provide her with the food, with the shelter, with the entertainment, trips, holidays, like things that are easily quantifiable. No man will say, I don't think that, oh, I'm a king, therefore my woman should do everything for me. Such a man would be laughed at by other men.
That is true. I like to think of it as the Mutasa Kafero effect.
What does that mean?
There's essentially
That's a shopping mall, right?
That's a shopping mall. There's essentially like a certain collection, a segment, I would like to call it, of men within society that have, like from the age of 12, they spend the age of 12 to say 18 developing themselves in terms of their financial capacity, in terms of developing their small businesses. Maybe it was a family business was passed on to them by their dad or something like that. So there's a certain segment of men that are focused on that and simply ignored their own social development, their own social networks, and that sort of thing. And
so they lead with money.
They lead with money. And so these men, they'll show up at the age of 18, 19, 20, and when they're pitching to a girl, they'll ignore the traditional take her out and wine and dine her and what we used to like to call vibing and any of that stuff. And they'll focus on the fact that she's mainly interested in financial gain. And they'll flaunt that in her face. They'll simply throw it to her. And so this particular segment of men has created a certain a flawed value system within women.
Because any girl you and I might ever date will have met a guy like that.
Or will have had a friend who had a guy like that. Or would have slept in a hostel where there was a girl who was dating a guy like that.
All
so
right.
the validation process of women has changed a lot, especially in our cheerful little dusty country. And so it's become a system of can you do this for me? Can you do that for me? Can you... there's a lot of of that going around. So it's why I call it an effect, because a small segment of men created that implication, which is a completely unsustainable.
So in other words, inflated every woman's expectations.
They skewed the validation process of women. So women would like, they don't necessarily just simply want these things, but they would like proof of their validity, and the proof of their validity is what you're willing to spend on them and what you're willing to throw their way in terms of economic support.
And because this Mutasa Kafero type man that you speak of would have offered all these goodies to these women, with them doing nothing to earn it, to just say
completely nothing. I mean,
what's your name? You're called Joyce. All right, Joyce, here's an iPhone. Hey, Joyce, here's a dinner. Here's a trip to Dubai.
I mean, a girl will simply say, I was just reading a post just a couple of minutes back on Facebook where somebody was saying, I mean, just a man who can send you Monday lunch of 500,000. That is not Monday lunch. That is a small hotel.
That's his rent.
that is the budget for an office lunch, like a working office with about 15, 20 people. That is what you that is not Monday lunch. And
anyway.
So they have a skewed validity process, which is part of the reason why women are very comfortable showcasing expensive trips.
They love to do that. And here's the funniest part is that they never post the pictures of the guys who paid for those trips.
And the argument here is that, you'll have guys throwing questions around like, why aren't you, how is it that you're able to afford it? She wants to make the point that she is not able to afford it. And somebody thinks she is worth this. This is how we'll say, I am worth this. And that's why it's a skewed validity system.
And I think it even extends to why a lot of them like the idea of big weddings, because that is really what it's all about, isn't it?
Of course.
It's to be able to show family and those that are closest to them that I am so valuable.
This is what I married into.
That my coochie has been able to accrue this much respect and this much wealth just for me on this day. She cares not for the guy.
Song about that.
She cares not for the guy she's being married to. He's just, by the way, perhaps an unnecessary accessory to the event. But he's there. He's that groom. So she has to walk down with him down the aisle. But The fact is, the wedding is huge. The dress and the gown is awesome. The bridesmaids look amazing. The reception is at the best hotel. The decor, the tent. My goodness, this is what I am worth. World, hear me roar.
Yes, and that's why it's a skewed validity system, and it simply doesn't work. And they're no longer just simply doing it looking out for men that provide shelter or support or strength. No, because that in no way validates them.
Wow. And that's just unfortunate, isn't it? Because it just lends themselves, it just lends itself to them living through cycles of failed relationships. Because I think any man that is serious about commitment will not be able to live up to these expectations, right? And especially
it's not sustainable.
If these women want men to lead in this way, it means already so many potentially good husbands are disqualified right off the bat. Men with potential, but unrealized potential.
Not only is it not sustainable, it creates an absurd situation whereby if somebody else shows up and has a much higher validity scale that he can support you with. So, for example, if somebody can take you on holiday to Dubai, and then another person shows up and can take you on a holiday to Paris, and then another person shows up and they can take you on holiday to Finland.
You keep monkey branching, as they say.
It's an absurd value system, and it's not sustainable. It can't work.
Well, to the ladies, I say this. Look, we are all unique individuals, and we bring different talents and different skill sets to every conversation and to every situation. I like to think that if it's a requirement that a man must fulfill certain obligations in your life, you need to understand that he would expect you. Any man of value would want you to fulfill certain expectations in his life. And you don't get to complain. If you're specific about the kind of man you want, every man has the right to be equally specific about the kind of woman he wants and the kind of woman and the kind of things he would want that woman to do. You don't get to complain. You ain't a queen. I ain't a king. We're all just normal people, and try and keep that in mind. We're going to be hanging out with Dennis for the rest of the show, so do stay tuned. It's your number one station, RX Radio.